Welcome to Dignity Leadership Podcast. We are so glad you have joined us here.
I'm Rich Levine, Chief Dignity Officer.
And I'm Brooke Coleman, Chief Inspiration Officer.
I practice leadership using my Master's of Science degree in Leadership and Change and a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Sociology. I have examined how people try to work better together my entire career.
And I practice leadership using an industrial organizational psychology degree with a focus on organizational behavior. A background in areas of sales, education, and management have allowed me to study and work with people at many different levels. In this podcast series, we want to expose the lessons we have learned through work and through life experiences with the intent to encourage more people to learn, grow, and become better leaders. Together, we can create a world of dignity.
Happy New Year! Welcome to 2022.
Happy New Year!
So this is season 2. So we've got a 1-year anniversary of Dignity Leadership Live podcast.
That's awesome.
And if we go back and rewind the clock, we've got Brooke as a co-host, and she was on, you made your debut, I believe it was episode 3.
Episode 3, yeah.
So it was February of 2021.
Okay.
And now you're in studio with me as a co-host. So
That
welcome.
is so awesome. Thank you so much for having me here, Rich.
I'm excited. So we got all of our New Year's resolutions underway. Everybody's trying to work on those. 2022 goals are going, 2022 action plans. So hopefully what you can do is you can use our past podcasts as part of that to create some of those resolutions, goals, action plans. If you need help, obviously you know how to get a hold of us. We're going to go through it at the end of the show. But reach out to us, send us a DM. And then new for 2022, we're going to kind of change up the structure of the show. And instead of us just talking 30 minutes with one guest, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little introduction. So right now we got the introduction. It's Brooke and I.
It's rolling, yeah.
And then today we're going to start off, we'll do a 30-minute segment where we actually interview expert guests. So today my guest is Brooke Coleman, and Brooke's going to interview me. So we're going to be our own guest just because it's a new year. We're changing things up. We got to get this. We're going to get everybody into rhythm on how things go. And then at the end of the show, we'll do a 15-minute wind down, and we're going to go through what my personal why statement is: learn, grow, lead, and create a world of dignity. And what we'll do is we're going to go around the room. We're going to bring Kevin E., the monster millennial, into the show and ask him, what has he learned? We're going to talk about how we can use this and how we can grow from it. So this year we're going to have a little different dynamic. We're still going to bring those experts on. We've got a great lineup for the year. We've already got a couple of guests that we've set up for some upcoming shows. One of them is about how to do better meetings. We're bringing a middle management expert on. And then, of course, we've got another one lined up that's going to be on listening. So we're going to have a great, fun year full of growth.
Yes, we are. And I'm very excited about it. I would like to just point out before we start, can everyone see my hat? And
swag.
My awesome t-shirt. Here we are representing Dignity Leadership. Super excited for this new year and everything that's to come. And I think this new format's going to be awesome, honestly. So starting out, being able to just kind of introduce what we're talking about and think through it just a little bit before we go in, just dive into the topic with our guest. And then at the end, coming back around and really taking the tidbits that we have heard and listened to in that episode, and hopefully you will also walk away with maybe you'll hear what we've learned and you're like, yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. There might be something totally different, and if that's the case, drop it in the chat. Tell us what you've learned. Tell us everything that you're seeing and hearing in these things, because we all grow together. We learn as a group. You can only learn so much on your own. You need others around to help you grow more.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know if you need more information on something. Let us know.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to cover it. You can send us all kinds of, we're on every social media platform, so just go on your favorite platform and find us wherever you're following us, and send us a DM, an IM, an email, whatever you want to call it. The only thing I don't think we answer very well is snail mail, because I've never given out our address to our home office, so we'll just leave that one alone. So go with the digital era, right? Yeah. But what I kind of want to talk about in this little introduction is, let's have a conversation about how you and I got here.
Okay.
Right. So I met you in the Masters of Leadership program at St. Ed's. And we both, I think you and I have a lot of things in common, kind of like our vision, our goals. But what's interesting is obviously no two people are alike, and you and I are probably as different as they come. So what kind of brings us together is that vision to help people become better leaders, to help them grow. And your vision on how you go about it and my vision how I go about it are totally different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is cool. So now we bring in a different dynamic. When I was doing it by myself, right, everybody got one perspective. Yeah. It was my perspective. Right. So now we've got at least two perspectives. And then with our training, we've also got the understanding of, you know how to bring in other perspectives. I know how to bring in other perspectives. And a lot of times we'll sit down, you and I will have a conversation. Yep. And sometimes it gets a little awkward just with you and I when we're talking back and forth about, you know, what you heard and what I heard. Yes. And it's like, we were both sitting there at the same table having the same conversation, but how did we hear different things? And that's what's cool about human nature and leadership, and being able to, you know, take in that information and dissect it and then regurgitate it and then learn from it. So we have these different conversations. But going back to where you and I started, so we were going through the master's program, and then you were a guest on the show. And then lo and behold, the next thing you know, we're both twiddling our thumbs at home. And
that's right. Unemployed for a little bit. Together.
Yes, unemployed together. So here we are out. So for anybody in the audience that doesn't know, any of the listeners, I am doing Dignity Leadership 100% full-time now. This is not a side gig anymore. I'm not just doing it for S's and G's and fun. I am having fun doing it. This is my passion. It's what I want to do. But you and I started having a conversation. I don't even remember when it was, and it was somewhere. It was late spring, early summer, and you came up and you're like, "I want to help you," and I was like blown away.
Yeah, well, you were sharing your vision, and this is what's so cool about it. I've watched your vision, right, for the past year. Watch you put together something. You built something out of all the tools. I feel like your toolbox was already there before you started your master's degree, and you just continued adding tools to that toolbox and honing these areas that you wanted to improve on and just learn. I mean, areas that you'll say, you know, I didn't even know this, or I needed to learn in this area, or I needed to experience this, and now I'm a completely different person. So I watched those things happen, and watch you become so passionate about your mission, which you will go into more in a minute, but just creating that world of dignity. And it's so cool to hear you explain it and your why. And so watching you do that, and then watching you have this idea for a podcast, and get so excited about it. Honestly, excitement breeds excitement. That's the cool thing about it. So here you are telling me all about it, excited, and then beyond it. And I kept on thinking, man, I love this idea, and I love what it can become, right? So we start talking about training, then we start just dreaming, right? Well, let's consider this, and let's look at what it really could be. And then we just stop, and we're like, we've got all the tools we need. We are ready for this. So let's jump in.
And then you talk about learning and growing, right? We've made some mistakes along the way. We've done some things like, oh crap, that was just horrible. But one of the things you mentioned that I want to go back to is you said toolbox. And I love that analogy, because I did always have those tools at my disposal. Problem was I didn't know how to use them. And so going through this journey has helped bring that out of me and learn how to use the tools. Everybody has people skills in them. And we've talked about this, breaking down the personalities, and I'm task oriented all the way through, but I have people skills in me. And then one of my downfalls though is I get too passionate. And you've called me out on this, like, Rich, you're getting a little too overboard here. You need to calm down the passion, because my red dominance will come out, and I just want to keep pushing. You're like, whoa, back off. And then you've got the yellow side, which brings all the energy in your title. So you created your title. That
was so fun.
Yes.
I love it.
And if anybody didn't catch it earlier, your title is Chief Inspiration Officer.
Chief Inspiration Officer.
And if you followed us long enough, you know that inspiration is on the yellow spectrum, which is on the I.
Yes.
Yeah, so it all fits in. You are the epitome of a yellow.
I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. I want everyone to have fun and just feel the joy and be encouraged and be a cheerleader. And I can easily get distracted. All the above.
Yes. And I like to stay on task. Yes. And I'll call you out on that.
That's right.
So you and I have learned how to work together, which is interesting, because you and I so you go through the journey, and we met through the through the program, and it's very structured, and you got to do this. And you and I were on some projects together. We worked well together. We were doing these things, and then we developed a friendship, and we were doing things outside where your family, my family, we're all together. We bring in your friends in, my friends in, and we're mixing it all in. We're having a blast.
Yeah.
And then we have this aha moment. Let's work together. It's like the first thing that went through my mind. I was excited. I'll be honest with you. I was very excited. And then the other side of me was like, oh, snap. What if something goes south? But I think you and I, taking our leadership skills that we've learned and have been working on, we can have those difficult conversations with each other, and we can get by, we can move on.
I think there's something to that learning. Once you hone some of those skills, it is crucial to understand that there has to be a level of respect, and that you can respectfully disagree sometimes. You can reach a point where you're realizing, we're here, but we might diverge a little bit, and that's still okay. I actually think that is crucial in our world today. We're seeing so much change, and change happens so much faster than it used to. The world we used to know is not going to be the world we're moving into, and we need to be okay with differences. We need to be okay with, and we need to learn from each other's differences. And that's the coolest part about this. I do love that. I want to be challenged. I want to grow. You don't grow when everything around you is just like you. You need something to pull that out.
Life would be boring if we were all the same.
Yes, it would be. Yeah, I need somebody to temper my excitement sometimes.
So speaking of the growth, right now it's January 2022. If you're listening to this on schedule, you might be listening to it later, right? Because it's recorded. It's out there in the universe. But, so let's talk about New Year's resolutions for a second and tie it into growth. So if you have or have not made a New Year's resolution, it's never too late to start, to set a goal, figure out what you want to do. And what we want to do with our podcast, and you can use this, we're going to do an episode every month like we did last year. So we're going to have one a month. And you can go along with us on a journey. We're going to cover a different topic each month. This January might be a little exception, but we're going to get into February, March, April, so on, and cover a different topic, cover different skills about leadership. You can use our podcast to bring you along, and you're going to get 30 days to listen to us, and then to try to understand what we're talking about, and then go put it into place, into practice, and then you start learning and growing, and you're going to make mistakes, right? And then you take those mistakes you learn, and you go back and you practice again, and before you know it, you're going to become a better leader. So that's kind of our goal. So if we can help anybody, and here's the other thing too. So we're laying this out once a month, right? And I don't even remember the crazy stat. Usually I've got everything memorized and I'm like, bam, 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 here's the stat. But there's an obnoxious number. It's like only 8% of the people that actually make a New Year's resolution follow through with it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously low. But setting goals and growing, right? So you got to become better. We're not expecting you to become better overnight, just a little bit every single day. And then you've got an action plan. So there's your action plan. There's your goal. We want to help you become a better leader. Your action plan is join us once a month. And then you also can follow us on social media. We'll put all kinds of tidbits out there on a regular basis.
And I would say, don't beat yourself up if you fall off the wagon. Because I think that's honestly what happens a lot with these resolutions, right? It has to be all or nothing. And let's be serious. Life is not linear. It's up and down, and you have bumps in the road. So take that into account. Especially with your leadership and your growing, right? You don't grow by just doing everything right the first time. You grow because you've learned something new. You've had a setback. You've had to reevaluate. That's why we're here. That's what we've learned, and we continue to learn, and we want to bring you on this journey with us.
So life is about decisions and choices. And if we go back, I launched Dignity Leadership as a side hustle in February of 2020. March 2020 came the pandemic.
Yes.
COVID. Now, I could have made a decision and said, you know what, look, I'm going to shut it down. But instead, what did I do? I challenged myself to start reading more books. I finished my master's degree. And then I had this harebrained idea to start a podcast. And we started recording podcasts and putting them out there. But what I'm saying is anybody could have chose to give up. I could have chose to sit on the couch and eating potato chips, drinking beer, watching TV. Instead, I did just the opposite. I threw away the potato chips. I turned off the TV. I started reading books. I started exercising more and doing different things. And my point to your comment is it's never too late. you've always got the next time. And it's not about, there is no failure. There's only an opportunity for learning, right? So take that and jump back in and get back up. We're not here to judge you. We're here to help you. We're here to get you to that next step and help you grow.
Yeah, no, 100%.
All right, so let's start diving in to what we're going to talk about. And today, this is going to be a little different show because you and I are going to interview each other. Mm-hmm. Kind of like we always do with our guests.
With our guests.
So you ready for this?
Let's go.
Let's roll.
Let's roll.
So the very first question I ask every guest, so now we are going to ask this because you're now part of the show. Mm-hmm. But in the past, it was me and I was the host and I had to ask the questions. So what's your definition of leadership?
My definition of leadership starts with one statement: a world where people matter. Why? At the end of the day, for me, it's about the people we interact with, and it's the way we treat others around us, and what we give and what we're given in return. And I truly believe that starts with our leadership style. I'm passionate about giving the best of me to those around me. I'm passionate about cheerleading and inspiring others and bringing out the best in them. What I've learned through that is when I am pouring into others, I actually am learning so much about myself. I'm growing. People do it differently, but for me, it's that interaction with others. I'm an extrovert to begin with. I am multicultural. I grew up in South America, but I am American. And so I have all these different facets to who I am and my identity and all those. And when I look around it, culture is such a huge part of my identity, and identifying culture and respecting culture and learning from it. And at the end of the day, that comes down to the people. And so a world where people matter means that a world will be better because of the people in it.
So you're kind of stealing my why statement.
Uh-oh.
And which is fine. It's great. That's why I put it out there, is for people to share. And, it's creating a world of dignity. And going through my master's program, and I was doing a research paper, and I stumbled across Donna Hicks, who got her PhD from Harvard, I believe. And one of the things dignity is where I got it was from her. And she said that the one common denominator in the entire world, regardless of where you live, your race, ethnical background, all those other things, religion, whatever, is people just want to be treated fairly and as they matter.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then you start getting the best out of other people. And so that's what it boils down to me.
I like that. Yeah.
So for me, my definition of leadership is helping bring the best out of other people, that other people become the best version of themselves. And if I do that, then I feel like I've created some piece of dignity. And people always ask me, they're like, how are you going to create a world of dignity? Well, here's the answer. I've had people tell me it's impossible, and they're probably right, but I'm going to die trying. Yep. I'm going to do it just like I would eat a cookie, just like I'd eat a pizza, just like I'd eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time. So if I can work with one person and influence them, and then that person can go influence another one, now I've got 2, and I can influence another one, and they can go influence, now we're up to 6, and we keep that pattern going. Yes, there's billions of people on earth. I'm going to die trying.
And you know what? I love what you just said there, because it's one person at a time, but it's one moment at a time. And when somebody can come back to you and say, do you remember this moment? Because that changed something. Or I now do this because of X, Y, and Z. That's what it's about. It's one moment at a time, one person at a time. Yeah, change can happen. Change doesn't happen overnight. You and I learned that in grad school. It never happens.
Change is an event. I change my clothes. It's an event, right? That's not a process.
Change is not an event. Change is always a process.
How so?
Well, it takes multiple events to create it, right?
Yes, absolutely. No, it does. I gotta bust your chops a little bit, because we've talked about some of that in the other show. We probably need to bring a change expert on.
Oh, yeah.
And do a whole show just on how to lead change. I mean, you and I could cover it, but
it's always more fun when we have somebody else, right?
Well, you get that other perspective, and it's always better having a smarter person in the room than us.
Absolutely.
Right?
Agreed.
Yeah, exactly. So let's step back from work, right?
Okay.
And kind of back away from that. So what's your purpose in life?
Ooh, okay. We're digging deep here, huh?
We are digging deep, really deep.
What is my purpose in life?
I got you thinking.
Yeah, you did. I mean, it fits in with my definition of leadership too, though, because it's just such a huge part of my future, I think, and it ties into my title.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's just to inspire those around me.
Yes.
To walk away knowing that other people are better because they've seen something in themselves. I think I'm always wanting people to know that they're here for a reason. They have purpose and they have meaning. And when I know I have just shared a moment with someone and listened to them for 5 minutes and I can say, I see this in you, I walk away better as well because I'm appreciating everything around me. And that is very purposeful for me.
So, yeah, that does definitely. And I figured that's where you're going to go with that is towards the leadership side.
Sure.
Because now you're doing what you're passionate about.
Sure.
And when you're passionate and you love what you're doing, it's no longer a job. At least that's what everybody tells me. And I don't feel like I have a job anymore.
Right.
Matter of fact, you and I were at the hotel last night, having a couple drinks at the bar with some friends. And we saw this convention going on. And I made the comment to you and I'm like, I just put my hands on my face. I'm like, I am so happy that I'm not stuck in that where I've got to represent a corporation, represent what they're doing, have to hit, you got to be social and have X number of drinks so that people know you care, but you can't have too much because then you're intoxicated and you're drunk and then HR is going to come. I love not living in that world. I love just being me and having the confidence to walk up and do whatever I want. If I want to drink, I'm going to get a drink. If I don't want to drink, I'm not going to get a drink. And you know what? I don't have a handbook. No one's going to go back and tell me. So I'm living my best life right now. And from day one of being a child and dreaming about what I want to do when I grow up, it wasn't this.
What was it?
I wanted to be a fireman or a construction worker. I had my mom's brother, so a maternal uncle was the chief of the fire department, volunteer fire department. And then my dad's brother, so a paternal uncle was a contractor. He built houses. And they were both fantastic at what they did. And and part of it is you and I went through the class, the second class. It was on the critical thinking and doing those different skills. And we went through that life event, which is where I discovered my why statement.
Yep. Me too.
To learn, to grow, and create a world of dignity. And to lead, obviously, that's in there. I forgot that one. But we went through, we had to identify people that were influential in our life. Both of those uncles are on that list.
Really?
Yes, they were both on there. One from my mom's side, one from my dad's side. And of course, my mom and dad were on there. So you talked earlier about, being raised in South America. Well, I was raised in Iowa. I think that's a foreign country. But no.
I've never been there. I can't wait. I need a passport.
It's flat and your cornrows pop up in rows. Corn pops up in rows, like Tim McGraw says.
Tim McGraw, yeah.
Yes.
I love
but anyway,
that.
So those people were very influential in my bringing, and they taught me. My uncle that was the fire chief he was like the family clown. He had everybody laughing in stitches, but yet he had this side of him that when it came time to go do put out a fire, go to a fire call, he was all business. Wow. So he taught me that dynamic. He taught me a lot about character. And then my uncle on the other side that built houses, he took me under his wing and he taught me how to build houses, but he taught me more than that. He taught me how to relate with people and how to treat people. Everybody loved working for my uncle. And he was a very soft-spoken. So if we look at the different spectrums of the rainbow, of the disc colors, right? Blue, reds, yellows, and greens, he's a green. But everybody loved him. And they'd always go to him. He's very soft-spoken. He had more patience than any. I thought my dad had a lot of patience. My uncle had a lot more patience.
I wanted to be a performer when I was younger, when I think about passion. And I can tell you to this day, I haven't performed in a long time. I grew up singing quite a bit and in theater and stuff like that. But what it was engaging with the audience. And it was this interesting thing that I realized I could do that didn't come naturally to other people as well. But I could look in the audience and lock eyes with people. And every time I did it, it actually improved my performance, my engagement, because I was there to, engage with those around me. And the feedback was always, wow, that was different than I've experienced that before. Or, and that's when I think I started realizing, there are all sorts of ways to engage with people, but that was a big one for me too. And I hear what you're saying about greens though, because some of my favorite people out there are the patient, quiet comforters, is what I would say. Always invested in what they do, and they do it really well. But people always walk away feeling like they're the most important person to that individual. There's something about them. They make everyone feel special and important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've met my son Ryan, and he is the epitome of a green, and he's got this personality that nothing seems to rile him up. A lot of people go to him, and he's just even keeled, calm, soothing, and the questions that he asks are just so powerful. It's like, it just makes you want to like, dang, you're really my kid? Is this really possible? So
he's awesome.
He's out there listening right now, so he's probably going to be embarrassed because he's a green. I brought him up on the show, and now thousands of people are going to know. But he's an awesome guy, and he probably gets those kudos. So the next question I have for you then, Brooke, is we just talked about what's your purpose in life. What motivates you?
Doing better. My motivation is improving myself all the time. And honestly, it's leading others too. I will say to your point about, leading, it's no longer work or a job. It's not. I love working with people. I love engaging with people. I don't like doing things solely on my own. There are people that love to do things on their own. That is not me. Yeah.
No, you definitely, you walk into the room, you're yellow sunshine. Here I am.
What motivates you?
Honestly, it's helping other people. I just want to see people be successful. That's where I get my pride, and just being able to see people grow. And I think if I see people grow, then I know that they're trying, they're putting an effort forth, and that's what I love to see. And it doesn't have to be a lot of growth, just a little bit of growth. Sure. Yeah, and you've touched on it a couple times, and it's just you said you want to become better. I'm going to reinterpret that. That's growth. Right? Yes. You don't want to be the same version of who you were yesterday. You want to be a better version today. And that's what motivates me. I'm just trying to help people become a better version of themselves. And we're doing it through, you and I are doing this through leadership coaching or management coaching, or call it whatever you want. And that's just how we look at life and how we're helping people. And I don't know about you, but I've been, my wife and I have a pretty strong relationship. And I'll tell her all this stuff, we go through, and usually she's listening to the podcast and she's part of it and all these other different things. And then what drives me crazy is when she calls me out on exactly what I'm teaching. I'm like, oh, which is proof that I'm human, right? I'm not perfect, and I'm still learning, and I'm still making mistakes. And that's part of leadership. And as a leader, if you think you know it all, then you're probably really not in leadership. Exactly. You're probably in dictatorship. And we don't even want to go to that because that's not what our show's about.
No, yeah, you're not really leading or leading effectively, right? You might think you're leading, and maybe, you've got the top honcho title or CEO or label, but yeah, you're not leading effectively. So here's a new question.
Okay.
What inspires you?
Ooh, I'm going to go back to the same thing, and it's seeing the growth, because then when I see the growth, then I want to keep going back. Because what happens is when I see that I've inspired somebody, it means I've given them hope. And if I've given them hope, then they're going to come back for more. And then that's an opportunity for me to build trust with them. And now if I've inspired them and I've built trust up with them, they're going to help me get what I want. But in turn, I have to help them. So my inspiration is honestly seeing people grow.
I like that. I'd say to that point, inspiration and hope kind of combine with each other. And when I think about inspiration, it's what gives me hope. And what gives me hope is that there's always room to improve. So it kind of goes back to that growth as well, right? Like, it's never over until the very, very end. And for me, that'll be when I'm in my grave. The day before, I still have an opportunity to change, to improve. And a lot of that comes by actually having to admit when I've done something wrong, or when I've been not kind, or when, yeah, I've had a setback and I have to acknowledge it, because if I don't, I can't move forward. I truly I need to humble myself just a little bit in order to look at it and to move forward and take a new step, a new piece, take another bite out of that elephant. But if I haven't chewed the other one up because I'm so stuck on it, I can't grow.
And you hit an aha moment for me, and I found it easier. And part of my growing up was I would hang on to things for way too long and just dwell on them. I didn't do it right. I got to be better. Well, as soon as I learned how to move on from a mistake, okay, I made a mistake. What can I do differently next time? And then start growing from it. But as soon as I put that behind me, it took my learning and my growth and it accelerated it. So I wasn't stuck in the past anymore, right? So I have, I'm from the automotive industry before I started getting into leadership. And one of the things I look at is there's this big giant windshield, right? And there's a little tiny rear view mirror. The windshield is so you can see what's in front of you. You can see the future. The rear view mirror is tiny so you can see what's been behind you for safety, not to dwell on, not to look at. Could you imagine if we drove down the road, and people do this, right? They're like, oh, yesterday was so bad, I can't ever get over it. Quit looking in the rearview mirror. It's a tiny little thing on the front of your car. Look at the windshield. Look at the opportunity. Look where the road's going. Yeah, there might be potholes in it. Yeah, the road might be closed, but it doesn't mean it's the end of our journey, right? And we get to turn around, we get to move on, and we go somewhere else. And that's what I've done, being out on the unemployment lines and then starting my deal.
Yeah, that's so powerful. That's super powerful. And as you're saying that, I'm curious what you think. So if I asked any of your friends or family right now, one thing that you do really, really well, what do you think they would say?
They're all going to say the same thing. I'm a fixer.
Okay.
They want me to fix it. My kids bring me broken toys, or they did when they were little, broken toys. And it didn't matter what kind of toy it was. They just saw that I had an ability to fix it. Even if I didn't know how to fix it, they knew I'd find a way to fix it. Whether it was replace it, repair it, do something different. But whatever that was I was a fixer. And it's a strength of mine, but it's also a weakness, because I'll run into people, and my wife, bless her heart, would always say, I'm not broken. Quit trying to fix me. Okay, because I was looking for something different out of her than what she was looking for. And now that I've gone through this leadership stuff and I've come up to an understanding of what my behaviors and motivations are versus what hers are, now I don't have to fix her. I understand her. But that's where my passion is. And it's where I kind of get into trouble sometimes with leadership coaching, right? I'll see somebody who has potential and I want to keep pushing them and I want to keep fixing them because I want them to be better, better, and better. And they might already be happy with where their progress is. Yeah. I want to see continued growth, but they might be, hey, you got me unstuck from a rut. I'm running now. Leave me alone.
Yeah, there's different levels of acceleration, right? Like the driving. How how heavy is that lead foot on the gas pedal? Because I'm with you. I'm a driver. Like, let's keep on going. But yeah, you have to know who's around you, and you have to respect and honor that, right?
Yeah. So sometimes that's the hardest thing for me is I get somebody, and my youngest son will call me out all the time. Dad, you've already helped me. I'm done. Just leave me alone. I'm like, okay, yes, you're going. And I'm trying to get him on to seeing way ahead. So yeah, for me, it's fixing. So what would your family say you're really good at?
I would say it's motivating and cheering others on. It's this like raw, I come in strong. They would say that as well. Woo, you're a ball of energy. One of my nicknames for my grandfather was Spitfire. So there you go.
But you're not. Well, you got a lot of red in you. But
I do have a lot of red in me, and I think that's just it. Was the intensity with the excitement. It was both. So dominance and the excitement. But truly, I want to see other people succeed. I mean, in every way. And so I am encouraged. I want to speak into that and really just have them walk away feeling so much better. And I'll get feedback all the time, like, man, that meant so much. On the other side, to your point, is I do that sometimes to my detriment, where I can build everyone up, but I kind of need some of that myself. And I will almost like drain the well, and I need, so self-care on my end has been this learning experience, because I will pour out into others quite literally often, but until the point of complete exhaustion, right? And
Yeah.
so how do you learn to continue to encourage and to cheer others on? But remember, you're your most important asset. That has been a lifelong journey for me to really recognize my worth in the midst of everything, and that I need to be cheering myself on first to be able to continuing and to feed into others. So
Yeah. Yep. So you just struck a nerve or a chord in my brain, and you're talking about living. And I saw a meme not too long ago and said, whoever said you only live once is wrong. You only die once. You live every day.
Ooh.
Which I thought was pretty powerful, because
That
now
is.
you're flipping the script, right? You're going the other way. So it's like looking and living and moving on every single day. So now here's the next question I've got for you.
Okay.
What's one thing that your friends or family that you would want to have them know more about you? Like, one thing, I just wish they understood this piece about me better.
That I don't have it all together.
I knew that was coming, because you and I have had conversations
Yeah.
like this. And which is to the point where nobody's perfect, right?
No.
No matter how hard, it's like, don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
You'll always be kind to somebody, because you never know what battles they're fighting. And you and I have had some really deep discussions that we're not going to get into in this podcast about where we've been in on life's journey. Yeah.
Yeah. The saying, and people say, like, we wear masks. And I think everyone does to a certain degree, right? Depending on the environment we're walking into, or it might be work related, it might be family, it might be this huge holiday event, and so you're walking in and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to keep it all together because everyone, thinks X, Y, and Z. For a long time, I was so critical of others for, wearing these masks, or not being their real selves. And then I had to have that, like, come to Jesus moment with myself, like, other people think you have it together all the time. Like, you walk into a room, and so that's the feedback that I'll get, like, wow, it's just, you've done so well, until I break. And then it'll be, wow, we had no idea. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I'm barely staying above water. So the feedback has been, I need to be a little more honest. I can do a lot, and I'm so proud of that.
Yeah.
And I need to let others in to see the whole picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and part of leadership then is being able to have those conversations with our followers or our people. So let's take it into the business world, because that's really what our target audience is. And somebody asks you, hey, Brooke, how you doing? And we all answer the same way, right? I'm fine. No, really, how are you? No, I'm fine.
Right.
And we do that because we think that's what they want to hear. And as soon as we say something, we have a vulnerable moment, people are like, you're weak. You're cowardly. You can't be like that. You're fine. No, you're not me. You don't get to judge me. You're not walking in my shoes. So that brings in empathy.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn to go back and ask people and start reading body language and look at them. And I've stopped asking people how they are. And I'll walk up to them and try to be as empathetic as I possibly can and say, you don't look quite right today. What's going on? Is there something I can help you with? And now they've got the opportunity to say, no, I'm going to handle this on my own. Or, you know what, there is something bothering me and I'm going to explain. But instead of asking them the standard question with the standard canned answer, now I'm forcing them to think. They've got to make a decision. Do they want some help? Do they want to release? Or do they just want to hold it inside? And I can't force anybody to do what they don't want to do. So, but it's a different way to approach it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to get people thinking.
What about you?
What about me?
What would friends and family say is something that you hide well, but that you know that you would want them to know about you? I don't think the word is hide. Let me take that back and say,
I know where
you're
going.
not hiding it, but what are you showing people, and what do you wish they could really see?
So we've talked about this on the show a lot. Now that I've gotten away from the corporate world, and I'm just going to say it, I'm not trapped in that environment where I have to be something I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I'm very red, very direct.
What does red mean?
Very red, very dominant. Be brief, be bright, be gone.
Yep.
But I have so much passion to help people that my passion sometimes comes across as aggressive anger. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. And you know what? They are doing it right. And one thing I just said is I wish you would look at me as a yellow or a green, because I love you and I want to help you and I want to see you do better. That's all I'm asking. But most times I get accused of being the, well, we were out together with my son and somebody said, oh, it's a yes, sir day. Cause they said, what's wrong with your dad? And Ryan, and we talked about him earlier, said, it's a yes, sir day. And then I'm like, that's embarrassing. But what I learned from that is it's feedback, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not on my best behavior. I need to adjust what I'm doing. My red is a little too dominant. How do I use the green? How do I use the yellow? So I can give the best experience to whoever's around me. And in my family, about me, because I talk about this leadership stuff all the time, I'll probably wear them out. But they're some of my best coaches because they'll call me out. I'll teach them something. They're like, you're not doing what you said. And that's one of the worst things a leader can do, right? Is not follow through with actions what you say you're going to do, or practice what you preach. So that was one of our pitfalls. We're in there. And you mentioned one of our pitfalls earlier that we have, and that's hiding behind a mask.
Yes.
And you talked about that. And I think we all hide behind a mask.
We do, to a certain degree. And I mean, to a certain degree, it's the worst thing you can do is not practice what you preach. And yet half the time you're fumbling over your own stumbling blocks. Because a lot of the time, I think just as humans, we project to a certain degree as well, right? And so whatever is out there, the frustration and everything, it might not be with the other person. It could be an internal battle that's just coming out externally, right? Yeah. And so it's those opportunities to go, oh, okay, that affected X, this other person this way. Let me look at this, consider it from a different angle. Just build that self-awareness. Yes. And it doesn't happen until we're made aware of it. Yep. Yeah.
And if you look in a lot of large organizations, you're studying, organizational psychology and different things. It's a leader, if they aren't self-aware, they do these actions that they think are right and they believe they're right. But in reality, what they're doing is they're just rubbing people the wrong way. And it's like, holy crap. And they're like, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, but you're not authentic. There's something fake about it. And people can see that.
Oh, yeah. Empathy has been this buzzword for a few years, and it's been coined and really studied in a very different way than it ever was before, because empathy was not something you'd consider in leadership or management styles. And if you go back to the Industrial Revolution and everything, everything was about checking boxes. Yes. And productivity and making everything work, right? Yep. And now we're in this new era, and not even our time. I think we've talked a little bit about millennials and those new generations that are coming up. They want the whole experience. They're not trying to compartmentalize things. I think the way we did so well, to a fault, not well in the past.
So let's blow some people's minds. Just blow up. Okay. Boom. So everybody thinks that management's been around forever. Mm-hmm. It's because it's what we know and it's what our reality is. We're living it every single day. Mm-hmm. Contrary, leadership is a much older discipline by thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It goes all the way back to Socrates, Plato, and some of their writings, some of their philosophy on what leadership was. And even if you go back and you take the DISC profile, I can't remember I think it was Socrates actually talked about some of these things. And he attributed them to different things of the body, and used the same colors, as a matter of fact. So you can go back and read. I'm not going to bore you with all of it. But management didn't happen until you just said it, until the Industrial Revolution. It's only been around since that started. Mm-hmm. And it was a way to, another one of our leadership pitfalls, it's putting profits and production over people, right? It's how can we get more out of you? How can we make more money? And I remember watching some of those History Channel stuff, and they'll have, back when Standard Oil, and it was on the Rockefellers and JP Morgan, and how they were fighting, going back and forth each other and who's going to have the most money. And if you listen, even the reenactments of those, you listen to them, it's 100% greed. These people were jerks. And I don't know who would ever want to work for them. And the way they treated their people was terrible. But they were like, oh, they got all this money, so they're the best things in the world. Money isn't the answer. But you can give more money if you just help enough people get what they want. In return, you'll get what you want, which is what you and I teach.
Which is what you and I teach, which I think is a perfect way to kind of wrap this up in this thought process. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Why dignity leadership?
Because I think the world needs, they need more leaders. They need more mentors. I think too much of the stuff has gone down the road of greed, and everything's profit and process and production over the human aspect. And if we look at it, one of my favorite analogies is, let's just say we're into manufacturing and we're manufacturing widgets, because it's, what are widgets? And you have a widget machine, and you have to go through and you have to service it on a routine basis, right? To make sure it continues putting out widgets. And if that machine breaks down, the owner, the CEO, whoever it is, gets mad. Why is the widget machine broke down? Right? Why wouldn't you put that kind of emphasis on your largest asset, your people? Keep them from breaking down. What kind of routine maintenance plan do they need? And I don't want to sound like harsh on routine maintenance, but start pouring a little empathy into them. Start putting a little more into them and find out what they need. And if you take care of them, they'll take care of your machine. Your machine will take care of the production. And guess what? You get what you want. We just can't go straight at it and be a jerk. But that's what we do. We want it now. We want it fast.
Yeah.
So that's why dignity leadership.
I like that, because when I think about leaders and pouring into leaders, training leaders, building them up, bringing them up, I believe every single person is a leader. You have leadership capacity and qualities in you, every single person. Now, some people don't want to lead. That is not their cup of tea. Some people truly enjoy being a follower, helping, assisting, doing their thing. That's great, because we need it all. But when I think about anyone, and I remember this when I was leading a huge group of people in a large healthcare system, every single one of them, I thought, I wanted to train them so that if anything ever happened to me, any one of them could have stepped up and maybe not done my job to the same level, but they can step in. They have all the tools they need. They have everything they need to succeed, and they understand the system and the process. Because by empowering your people, you are changing the dynamic of your productivity, of your return on investment, because aren't your people your largest return on investment? Come on.
Yes.
So invest in them, pour them out. And so I think that's why I am so passionate about dignity leadership in this Pins, because at the end of the day, people matter.
Yes, people matter. And by doing that, you dignify them.
Absolutely.
Yes. So then it comes full circle.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to walk everybody through kind of our process, right? So this is episode 1 of season 2. So we did our intro, we did our interview, we interviewed each other. So thank you for being a guest today.
Thank you, Rich.
Hey, I appreciate it. It was fun. And so then we're going to kind of roll into our conclusion. And this is where we're also going to, so this whole year, we're going to challenge Kevin, our producer, and get him in there. And of course, so we're going to ask him, we're going to start off, we're going to break in the new guy, right? And he's got a fresh perspective, because he's not in this day-to-day knee deep like you and I are.
Right.
But we come in here, we talk for an hour and we babble, and just to make sure he's actually paying attention to what we're talking about and see if our stuff is any good,
That's true.
See if
we got to weigh it out. Yeah.
So Kevin.
This one's kind of bogus, only because it's usually a round table, and this time I'm the only one under the lamp. You know what I mean?
You are underneath the lamp. So what'd you learn
Not
today?
to mention, I'm really not a new guy to this party. Think about how many episodes I've done with you already, and a lot of the things about you guys and how you feel about your career and the passion there and whatnot. I already know a lot about you guys.
That's true.
I didn't know a lot of personal things. Like I didn't know about Rich's uncles. The one who builds houses, the one who's a firefighter. I mean, that actually makes a lot of sense into contributing to who you turned out to be. Brooke, I didn't know that you wanted to be a performer, which I think is funny because now you're performing again.
Interesting. Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing when she was going through it. I was thinking, and then I wanted to throw this out there, but we had so much momentum, I let it go. But I'm going to add it in now. You're talking about performing. If you're looking for speakers and you want somebody to come and talk more about leadership, Brooke and I love to talk in front of people.
Yeah.
Yes, bring it on.
Oh, and now I know, thanks to you guys, what my new side hustle is going to be. Dignity Dictatorship Consultant. I will teach you how to be the one who knows everything.
I love it.
Good luck with that.
I'm kidding. No,
Do you know there's more information? I read this stat, and yes, I'm a nerd. There is more a youth or a toddler is exposed to more data in the first 4 years of their life than somebody in the 16th or 17th century was ever exposed to in their entire life. It's ridiculous.
I did not know that.
It's ridiculous. There's so much information now because it's all at your fingertips.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah. Yep. So just imagine.
Nobody even needs the library anymore.
If toddlers are at that stage, just think where adolescents are at when they're going into school and then high school and then they continue to grow. Think where these working adults are at. I mean, the world we live in right now has so much information. You're never going to conquer it all. So if you ever have a leader that tells you they know it all, Bullshit.
No, very true.
Yep.
Being a
not
red,
true.
that was a tough pill for me to swallow for a long time. I really did think I knew everything. I didn't like anyone
Really?
trying to teach me how to do it, I knew exactly the right way to do everything, so I didn't need any help, Now I've slowly started to realize that that's a very stubborn, counterproductive...
But reds are known to be stubborn. It's a
Yeah.
behavior. It's a preference. That's just what we go. So
something I had to outgrow.
Yeah, when was your aha moment? When did you finally say, all right, I got to stop being so stubborn?
Probably when and I probably should have, took too long. Probably when I went out on my own.
Yeah.
When I, became self-employed is when I really realized that I'm like, wow, I kind of want someone to tell me what to do.
Oh, yeah.
I can kind of use it because I like discipline. Yeah. I crave discipline. I crave accountability. I'm not good at giving myself those things. So I needed ideas and I needed accountability from other sources, which of course you can still find when you're self-employed. But that's when I actually had to go out and seek it on my own.
Yeah.
I think that's when I really realized that, there are a lot of good ways to do things. I don't know all of the best, and I need to constantly be learning new stuff, especially in this business.
And that brings on another trait that you need to have, and that's discipline, because nobody else is going to push you to do it but yourself. And cool part about bringing Brooke on and having us work together now is I have an accountability partner, and I can't push things off and say, oh, I'll just do that tomorrow. It's going to have to be now because I've made a commitment to her, and she's taken time out and made a commitment to me. And then I think you and I've had this conversation.
Yeah.
I think it goes both ways.
It does. I think one of my learning keys, and I will perpetually be learning this for years and years to come. Maybe before I die, I'll dominate this area. But
Would it be on time?
I'm 5 minutes late on the dot to everything in my life, and I don't want to be like I don't want to be, and yet it's still a discipline thing. I will say 5 minutes is a lot better than 15. You know, like you slowly get better, but it is this interesting thing.
Allowable. I mean,
Well, no, I mean, it's allowable for some things, and there has to be some give and take, right? Because there's characteristics and personality things with that too. But there are times, and you have to think about your person and your audience. It's also disrespectful to others at different times, and you really need to consider all the components of that. So I don't
ever feel disrespected if
I won't ever feel disrespected. Yeah, Kevin, I appreciate that more than you know. But on the other side, building that awareness for me is actually key. I don't want anyone to ever feel disrespected by my tardiness.
Likewise. Yeah.
But I understand that for other people is such a high value that I need to be aware of that, So that is huge. And you know that. Yeah.
So we've got to be fair. So I just unfairly stated in front of all of our listeners
that I'm perpetually 5 minutes late.
That is true.
So what
you outed her on that?
I outed her. So out me. What do I need to work on? Give me some, because that's part of our deal, right? So what do we learn? How can we grow? So help me. What's
Sure.
one thing
Okay.
I can do that I need to work on?
Continue to listen to others.
What?
I love and this was, I'm going to tell you one of the
I think
things
my
that you
headphones
should. Well, I mean, what I mean by that is like listen to everything they're saying, not just the words that are coming out of their mouth. What is their body language? How are they conveying that message? You said something brilliant that came out on our social media, and you said, did you know that the same letters that spell listen also spell silent? And that has hit me so deeply because I'm like, you know what? It's true. We need to listen twice or three times as much as we speak, right? And we can so quickly speak and put our opinion in and things like that, which is so valuable if it's in the right moment and people can receive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's always been one of my goals, is to become a better listener.
Yeah.
And I stated that in our master's program early on.
Yeah.
Become a better critical thinker and a better listener. And I'm doing it. I think I've become a better listener, but I can assure you I got a long ways to go.
Well, and I can attest that you become a better listener, and you become an empathetic, not a pathetic.
I'm a pathetic listener.
An empathetic listener, which is so crucial because to really understand people, you have to have a level of empathy. Yeah.
All right. So the last question on our list, then, before we get to the end of the 60 minutes, because Kevin's already given me the stink eye.
The look.
How can we
doing my job?
How can we use what we've learned today to better our life?
See, I think that's almost one that you two have to answer since you interviewed each other.
What?
Yeah.
Well, you were sitting here you had collateral damage. So what was bouncing around the room was definitely deflecting your way. All right,
I suppose that's true. But
that's true. We'll let you off the hook for a minute.
Fair enough.
All right. So, Rich, how can we use what we learned today to better our lives?
So for me, it's I got to continue to go back to that listening thing that you just hit me with and continue to become a better listener. Even as a leader, and I think I know the leadership stuff pretty well, I still have that red tendency to be dominant and say, no, I've already got this figured out. Listen to me. And I need to take that and practice every day and grow my empathy, grow my pathetic amount of empathy so that I can become better. So that's what I need to, that's my takeaway for right now from this show is I'm going to have to continue to focus. And so that'll be my goal. This is our first show, 2022. That'll be my goal for this year is to continue. So at some point in the year, you're going to have to have a fact check.
In.
Yep.
I like that. Okay.
Yep. Does that work?
I would say, yeah, that works perfectly because for me, I think it comes down to some of that discipline to hone in all these things. That was one, discipline, because even with time management and the yellow in me, the squirrel, as we like to say sometimes jokingly, but it's true. Yes. Oh, I'm over here and over here. That's one. But the other thing I think I really learned today is that the power of the stories. Because I love every time we talk or we share things, I'll learn a little bit more about who you are. You learn a little bit more about who I am. And that changes perspective and that grows in my awareness of people. And just because you shared that about who you are, but it also contextualizes, like you said, you're dominant, you're red and all these things. And yet, what is the why behind it? And what does that look like with other reds and other dominants, and how can you really understand a people group more?
So when we were talking earlier, I said I had 2 uncles that were on my list. Mm-hmm. So all the people that were on my list were my 2 uncles. They're both deceased.
You said one was paternal, one was maternal?
Yep.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
And then I had my grandmother, my maternal grandmother on the list. And I had my mom and dad because they all did something different. My dad taught me patience. My dad had, I don't know, I said my uncle had patience, his brother. My dad had them too, but I don't know where they got them from because I didn't get them. I didn't get their patience. My mother taught me about faith and just being relentless, never giving up. Mm-hmm. And then, so there's 5 people, there's 6 on there. So this is going to be tough to get through, but I'm gonna get through it. And then the 6th one was my childhood hero, and he was my cousin. He was the son of the fire chief.
Really?
He played on the football team. He was the quarterback. He was an incredible quarterback. And I don't think he was the most athletic guy, but he knew how to pull a team together. He's humble. He went on to play college football, and then he, not big time, but small college football. And then he became a superintendent of a principal of a school, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, Buf, if you're out there listening, I love you.
That's awesome. Well, hey.
So, we're up against the clock, aren't we?
We are. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today on our leadership journey.
If you're looking for more leadership guidance, please reach out to us and give us a follow on your favorite social media platform. You can find us on the internet at dignity-leadership.com.
And you can find us on Facebook at Dignity Leadership Consulting.
Dignity Leadership, all one word, on Instagram.
Dignity Leadership on LinkedIn.
Dignity Leadership, one word, on TikTok.
Dignity Leadership Live on YouTube.
At DLC with Rich on Twitter.
And at DLC with Brooke on Twitter.
Keep paddling.
Keep paddling.